Peter Gabriel, In Your Eyes, right here on Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Divine timing versus resistance. That was a really cool question that someone asked. I liked it. It was just like, this is a very good topic. Divine timing, it's happening as it should be. It's happening in the order that it's supposed to. It's in process. These things shall be, living from within, living from the end. Like, all of these things really come along the lines of it's kind of in process, right? It's happening. It's divine timing. It may not be this very second, but it's happening, and it will be as soon as it's supposed to, and as soon as it's ready, and as soon as the bow is neatly tied, and maybe they do that little thing at the end, and it makes it all curly, right? With the little scissors, right? Some of you with ribbon, right? Anyway, that's how I imagine it. Putting a little bow on it, making it all gorgified. Now, I also get that most of us would be like, no, I'll take it naked, wrap it in a newspaper, give it to me now. I get you. Hell, don't even wrap it, right? Just throw it to me. Hell, you know what? I'll go down and pick it up. You just tell me where it's at. I'll go get it. You don't even need to pick it up. Let me help you out. I get that. I get that's where a lot of us are at. And I think, the core of this question generally comes from that angle, meaning we perceive the fact that we have not manifested it yet as a negative thing. We perceive the fact that currently, when we look at our actual situation right now, we assume that we're doing something wrong, or that I have somehow failed in my manifestation, or that somehow it's not working because right this second it's not happened. And just yesterday I did a whole bunch of really cool stuff. I tried this new technique and I meditated for almost an hour. Okay, it was 20 minutes, but seriously, it felt like an hour. It was awesome, right? A lot of us do that, and then we're like, where's my reward? It's hard. I get it, because from my standpoint, things take time. I'm okay with that. I get it. I accept it. I know some would probably try to come down it, and I guess I'll start from this angle, because there's people that fall into this. And I want to say there's nothing wrong with either of these groups, or groupings, if you will. One of them's probably you're going to associate more with than the other, but there's nothing wrong with it. What I'm saying is what your belief is what your reality is. And I try to ask people, what do you believe? If I know what you believe, and you've got a religious foundation that you're basing everything off of, or you've got some sort of other foundation, like some people that are really, really hardcore Neville have a kind of a little bit of this foundation, sometimes a very black and white kind of foundation. It either is possible or it's not possible. There's no gray area in between there. And I don't mean it's barely possible or sort of possible. I kind of mean more in the sense of it's happening. These things are occurring versus right now. No, okay, how about now? I don't know. I get questions, and sometimes I kind of just would love to back up a few steps and go, well, okay, so let's go back a few years. Let's go back to when this all happened. Let me get a kind of an understanding. But a lot of the black and white kind of concepts believe divine timing can't really exist. That there must be you haven't manifested it yet, so thusly you just keep living from the end or whatever, or you keep doing the techniques, or you keep imagining from, or you keep whatever. That can't enter your mind or doesn't enter your mind. It's not okay, and that's fine. That's fine if it's not there from that kind of standpoint, right? They believe, or will come at it from more of an angle of, it's us pushed out. So if nothing's occurred yet, there must be this thing of me pushed out. Now, there's a lot of truth to that, mind you. I'm not criticizing any of this. There's different ways of looking at this. The us pushed out, though, is kind of where our beliefs and a lot of our limitations can come from. Some of our self-love problems, a lot of those things, right? That's in that whole area of us pushed out. And I've done shows on that. So I'm on track with that completely. Even the divine timing thing, I don't know. I think that's semantics, really, in a lot of ways. But anyway, there's a very strong understanding that any sort of beliefs that limit are limiting beliefs, just very black and white. So if I think something takes time, then by the very nature of me saying it takes time means it takes time. Otherwise, it could be instantaneous. So it could happen any second. Now, I do agree without a doubt. Again, it's how we look at things. I agree without a doubt that things can happen like that. They truly can. Now, do I think from second zero when I finally say, you know what I'd like, and then boom, from that moment forward, like instantly have it pop into my hands? No, I don't believe things happen quite that quickly. I've seen things happen very, very quickly in my life. Even sometimes to the point where I'm reasonably sure the thought was inspired elsewhere because it happened so fast. I don't think I created it. I think I was keying in on what was happening at that moment. And then there's times where it's maybe an hour later, 2 hours later. I think those are more creation-based probably. But either way, limiting beliefs limit us. So again, if you're falling in this category, I get it. And I think what is really the biggest limiting factor for the people that come at it from this angle. So if this is kind of the crowd you fall into, and it's okay, again, there's no judgments. It's totally awesome where you're at. What typically is the issue in this particular group is the sponsoring thought that I've frequently talked about. So the sponsoring thought is, I need to do more manifesting techniques daily because, and then what follows. Whatever your answer is to that part, that's your sponsoring thought. That is likely the concern if you have not manifested it yet and you fall into this very black or white group. Strong chance your sponsoring thought is something of I don't have it yet, therefore I need to do more techniques. Or I must be doing this wrong, so I need to do something else. Or I must not be worthy because again, a lot of them have to do with this weird sort of I'm not okay. It hasn't happened yet for some sort of reason, so obviously something's wrong. But a lot of times it's that sponsoring thought of there is something wrong. That's why I am not seeing it right now. It's not that you seeing it right now is showing you that something's wrong. It's something's wrong that's created it's not here right now. So we keep thinking, I don't have it right now. So we keep paying attention to where our feet are. We keep looking at our feet, looking at our feet, looking at our feet. Oh my God, I stepped on a snake because I didn't see it. It was 4 feet in front of me, but I wasn't looking out at all. We've got to look ahead. We've got to look out and on and try to come at it from that standpoint. And oftentimes that's how we can burn through some of these resistance. Now, the other side of this, the timing kind of thing. I think it takes time. This is the side I tend to come from. It's not that it's better. It's not that it's worse. It's just this is the kind of the area where I've come to relax and feel comfortable and groovy and just go, hey, I like this place because it tends to work most of the time, if not always, right? So there's been a lot of examples. I've given some. I'll give a couple real quick where in my mind anyways, my life, that what I was trying to create wasn't best. And what happened was way better than what I was trying to create. And I just didn't know it. I wasn't able to control that, or I wasn't seeing it big enough, or however you want to split it. And it wasn't limiting. It was like, no, literally, if I would have gotten the thing I was thinking of, I would have been not prepared for the next step. And I can totally see how the next step led me to where I'm at right now. So it was a job thing. I wanted to go back to an older company, older, we'll just say, because there's 2 older companies. So older would have been a really nice bump in pay, would have been familiar, but nothing really new, nothing ventured, no mentors there to learn from, nothing impressive for me at all, like where I'm at growing. Or there was the opportunity to go to this other company where I knew a couple people. It was definitely in over my head as far as tech savvy, but I learned it while I was there, by the way. So I was there for a year. It was in over my head. Learned a whole bunch. Seriously stressed myself out beyond words. But within about a year's time, what I learned transitioned to exactly where I'm at right now, coming back to a company where I am still growing and expanding, but it kind of worked out in a really cool kind of way, a new position and a new kind of outlook on my career from that standpoint. So it worked out way better that I didn't get what I was trying to create. Another great example was when I was living in Tennessee, to be honest. After kind of the radio thing petered out and I was doing some stuff, I was actually trying to get better jobs so I could, quote, afford to get out of there. But the problem was there is I would have gotten stuck very much into this, well, now I'm making good money. Now I can afford to buy a place. Now I can start talking like I live around here. And instead of getting back home, which really has led to a whole bunch of other things that in my mind has worked out way better. I mean, just incredibly so. There's just countless numbers of things where I'm like, thank goodness that it worked out the way it did. So huge in that part. Oftentimes through relationships, through manifesting, through things that we're trying to create. I mean, a great example I like to give, and this is part of it too, but it's like a lot of us are like, if I could just win the lotto, if I could just become a millionaire, a billionaire, or whatever, right? Like, if I just could do that, then everything would be great. So I keep buying tickets. I keep using the law of attraction concepts, try to win money on the lottery or scratchers or whatever. Try to do this countless times. Maybe I go gambling and wherever, whatever. I'm trying to use it in some sort of happen chance or happenstance kind of scenario. We're putting a lot of eggs in those baskets at times. What can happen from doing that is we're very limited to, one, how that income can come to us, and two, universe, higher self, or spiritual growth, us as people manifesting our higher selves are like, yeah, but that's not really the point. It's not about the money per se. Yes, we could manifest gobs of money, but it's not that. It's you manifesting the wealth mentality, you coming from maybe up and understanding it and growing and expanding it. Now, sure, some of you may win the lotto, but a lot of us, we're growing that and becoming more expansive, more accepting of the abundance that's around us. That is actually far more important than manifesting the money. It's the opening up, because with the opening up comes actually a number of other really cool soul type things. So sometimes there's that soul growth. Sometimes there's a level of consciousness in the case of income. Maybe you're making good money now, but the idea of expanding that further, you really have to imagine, what would my lifestyle be like with that expansion? Or in the case of love, what would my life be like with this person? If I'm living with them now, what is it like? What am I experiencing? What's my day-to-day? That is the feeling and thoughts that we need to really embrace and cultivate. Think about them a lot. Keep thinking about them. Get into that feeling, that vibration. Imagine where it goes. Extrapolate it out, because that's envisioning outward. Like all of that, this is happening, and here's totally what I'm going to experience, is an amazingly powerful aspect to this manifesting. So that consciousness growth, that expansion sometimes is required for us to be able to kick it up to the next level. For like to kind of break it into a sort of a simple way, even though it's not quite like that in the universe, but kind of is, right? Like maybe the degrees of in martial arts, right? White, yellow, orange, blue, green, brown, black, whatever. I'm missing some, probably red if you're in judo or whatever the heck, but it doesn't matter. Like that's your next rank, your next level. And a lot of times that comes through that expansion, that growth that can come. Sometimes even what we're asking for isn't necessarily what we really desire, because maybe what we really desire we've thought about a lot, and we've put a face on it. We've decided that I want love, and this love is person X. And because of that, we want person X. When in reality, you want love. Universe knows that. That's what you've asked for. That's really what the deal is. But sometimes we get hung up on titles. Sometimes we get hung up on thinking we know what the answer from universe is. Sometimes we decide something based off of limited information. When I've talked about the higher self kind of being like the eagle soaring above, right? Like it can see way out, but we're down in the middle of the forest with a bunch of trees all around us. All we see is trees. We don't see the forest. We don't see that there's a river just off to the side. We don't see that there's a cliff just over there, not very far. We don't see that there's actually a bear cave over in that direction. The higher self does. And so it's guiding us onward to where we're going to get what we desire. And some of us are holding on desperately to the idea of what we desire is, no, what we desire is what I want it to be. Well, I don't know. Sometimes what you desire is way bigger than what you're imagining or thinking anyways right now. You just can't understand it necessarily because it hasn't happened yet. And this whole new definition is going to open up in front of you. You're going to be like, oh my God, I've never been in love like this before. And it will just blow your mind. It will blow your mind. They always say, right? The one thing at least I always heard is you'll know when it happens. That is for sure. And that strength is there. And I know a lot of you are going to comment, I totally knew it when I saw it. I'm sure you're 100% right about your SP. I'm not saying you're not. Just saying, things can happen in a lot of interesting ways. I'm just trying to cover all the bases for all the wonderful listeners. So a lot of it can come down to, us winning the lotto and us maybe expanding our love of money and our ability to be wealthy. Maybe it's that whole, we're focused on a specific person, but really it's all about our expanding of love and expansion of what we can give as love, and then what we receive as love because of what we give is really the growth that's tied into this whole experience. It's not just black and white, in my mind anyways. I know to some it is, and that's okay. But in my mind, it's not. There's growth to it, and there has been things that I didn't get. But there's been most of the time things I did get, and I always do the same thing. But sometimes it seems what I'm getting is growth too. Like it's not just a thing or a person or whatever. It's an understanding. It's a growth of my consciousness. It's a concept explained where I now have knowledge, right? I now have wisdom, I should say. Not just knowledge, but wisdom. It's applied. It's experienced. This is knowledge experienced is what wisdom is, at least in my mind, right? So if I've experienced it now I know. Now I can maybe teach even, but now I understand it. And there's a huge amount of power in understanding the concept behind something because it's easier to reproduce or enhance and get more of that something. Hopefully this makes a difference. Divine timing and resistance. Those two concepts. And I love this. It's kind of a really, really beautiful topic. And in my mind, it's, I hate being wishy-washy, but it is. It's what do we believe? What do we believe is the case? So if you're kind of coming at it from one angle, you can come at it from the other angle. Who knows? Maybe you change your mind somewhere along the way. But there's a place for all of us in this wonderful land, I like to call our community, as I frequently refer to it. Going out with a great song by Bobby Darin, particularly, is called Dream Lover. It's right here on Dan Radio Style.
Every night I